And good afternoon, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Welcome to another edition of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack. I'm your host, as always, Tony Defio, and I thank you for joining me on this Friday afternoon because I have to join you a few hours earlier than normal on Friday because of the Steelers and Panthers preseason finale on Friday night in Carolina. So I'm here on a Friday afternoon instead of a Friday evening, but it's still going to be the same kind of show. Instead of a six-pack, maybe we'll do some happy hour. Maybe there's some specials we can get into. But I thank you for joining me. And before I continue, as always, I would like you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel where we bring you this show, The Hangover, the Steelers Preview, Know Your Enemy, Touchdown Under, so many shows, so many live shows, and you can catch all of our live shows on YouTube and Facebook every week. And we're going to be bringing you some post-game stuff, I believe, after Friday's game. And we always have post-game shows during the season after each and every Steelers game, so please check those out. And you can catch all of our live shows on any audio platform of your choosing, whether it's iHeartRadio, iTunes, Apple, you name it. You can find Behind Steel Curtains podcasting platform, podcasting network. It's a growing network. We have new shows, including What Yin's Talking About. We have Jeffrey Benedict's new show on the audio side from the cutting room floor. Speaking of our audio only side, we have Jeffrey's show. We have Let's Ride, the very popular audio show with Jeff Hartman. We have that 3 days a week. We have the Live Mic with Michael Beck. I think it's 2 days a week. The Scobro show. I'm sorry, the Stat Geek. Scobro shows the live show on YouTube and Facebook, but the Stat Geek, that's on the audio side. We have the War Room, and I think we have a couple of other new shows on the audio side. So please check those out. As I said, thanks to Brian and Michael and Dave and Jeff and everybody, our and the new people, Shannon, everybody, our podcasting network has grown so much since last summer. So it's a incredible thing to see. But also, please subscribe. Please check out Behind the Steel Curtain, the website. We bring you news, commentary, film breakdown. Anytime there's a trade, a player being waived, a player being signed, we're going to bring it to you. It's it's your one-stop shop for all your Steelers needs. It's the hardest working Steelers site on the internet. You won't be sorry. We're looking forward to an incredible season with you guys this year, and as always, so please check that out. And I want to welcome the people to the live chat who are graciously joining me on the surprise time slot. George Teston, first one here. Garcia gone. Patricia, Dave, Wolencheck, Danny Owens, Brad Jewett, Jared Devil, Buck Dancer, Wes Hickok, who types in all caps, Tony with an exclamation point. I can get behind that. Allie Howard, Andrew Wilbar, who's just dropping by to say hi. He's our young phenom. He's rising fast in the rankings. And that's it for now. So, speaking of the game on Friday, in just a few hours against the Panthers, the annual preseason finale between these two teams. It's been going on, I think for 20 years now. They've been alternating home games for the preseason finale. It's a tradition. It's one of the reasons why the Panthers are one of my kind of favorite teams. I don't really root hard for them, but I enjoy when they have success in the postseason and the couple times they made it to the Super Bowl. But there you go. That's a tradition for you. It has a way of having teams grow on you. But Mike Tomlin announced this week during his press conference that, Dwayne Haskins will get the start at quarterback, and Josh Dobbs will come in and finish out the game. Of course, Ben Roethlisberger is not going to play, and even Mason Rudolph's not going to play. So this is going to be a chance for especially Haskins to really shine and really show what he's made of, because according to Tomlin in his press conference, most of Carolina's regulars are going to play in this game. So as they kept throwing the word varsity around, both Tomlin and Haskins in his press conference. So he's going to get a chance to really put on a great performance against, I guess, the number ones from Carolina. I expect the offensive line, the 5 players that people are expecting to start, I expect those guys to be in there, blocking for Haskins. As far as anybody else on offense, I don't, obviously Najee Harris isn't going to play. Tomlin already has said that. Benny Snell is going to get a big workload, or at least that's the plan heading into Friday's game. As far as the receivers, I wouldn't really expect to see anybody of prominence other than maybe James Washington, because you want to get him some work, because he's I'm sure he's these rumors of him wanting a trade, I'm sure that's been discussed, even though it's been denied. I'm sure there's been a discussion. Washington even kind of hinted about it last week when he talked to the press. There was he called it a private conversation. He didn't want to get into it. So I would suspect he's going to play a little bit. And obviously the down the liners, the receivers are going to get their shot. As far as tight end, I don't expect Eric Ebron to play or Pat Freiermuth, but guys like Zach Gentry might have a shot to really show how far they've progressed, how far they've progressed. In his third year, people talk about his body transformation from last year and how he looks more like a tight end now than a converted quarterback. He certainly has the frame for it. So, playing with a quarterback of high pedigree in Haskins, that'll be a interesting thing to watch. As far as what I'm looking for from Haskins, it's no secret. I mean, it's no real. It's not hard to figure out. I'm just looking forward him to play well. How well is he going to perform? He will have restrictions. As I said, he's not going to have a full complement of starters. So, and of course, the game plan is not going to be. There will be no game plan. So, it's just going to be him, finding his open man and hitting him. So that's what I'm looking for. Does he still have a chance to supplant Mason Rudolph as the number 2 quarterback? From everything I've heard, probably not. If you listen to talk radio and there are quote unquote sources, it would seem to be that Rudolph already has the number 2 job wrapped up, which is why he's not playing against the Panthers on Friday. But of course, there is precedence that might not mean anything. If you go back just a few years, 2018, Landry Jones didn't start or play the last preseason game, and people assumed that meant he had the team made. And not long after the last preseason game, he was cut in favor of Josh Dobbs. And Rudolph was on that team. That was his rookie year. Rudolph spent the year as number 3 quarterback, and Dobbs was the number 2, and he actually played a little bit in the preseason. He came in for a spell against Baltimore when Ben went down temporarily, and then he played a lot of the second half against the Raiders when Ben had a rib injury, and he didn't come in until very late in the game, meaning Roethlisberger, and Josh Dobbs essentially played most of that second half and that disappointing loss against the Raiders. So there is precedent that Haskins could supplant Rudolph as the number 2. I don't expect Rudolph to get cut. That's not going to happen. He's going to make the team. But if Haskins really has a great performance, maybe he, which would build on his already pretty successful preseason, at least since the Eagles game, he's looked pretty good. That might be enough to boost him to the number 2 spot. But again, I personally don't think it's going to happen, because I think, as I've said before, in a preseason without Dwayne Haskins on the team, I think Mason Rudolph will look a lot better based on his performance through the 3 games that he's played. He's gotten better each and every week. The only problem, and it's a valid concern, it's a valid criticism from fans and the media, and that's that he hasn't put the ball in the end zone once in 3 games. And you can point to several reasons why, mainly the fact that he hasn't had a whole lot of time with the he's had more time with the ones than anybody else, but it's still not the same as the regular season. So that's one excuse you can make for him, one reason. Another reason is the lack of game planning in the preseason. You could point to that too. But the fact is, he hasn't put the ball in the end zone, and that's a concern. But having said that, I think he's shown them enough that he will be the number 2 heading into the season. But it's like I said in the past, I really don't think that really matters all that much. It might matter in terms of who they call on to start a game in which Roethlisberger gets hurt, or come on and play and finish out a game, I should say, in which Roethlisberger gets hurt, or play 1 week, start 1 week for Roethlisberger, provided that he's out for a short time. But if Ben goes down long term, it doesn't mean that the job's automatically going to go to Rudolph as far as who the next starting quarterback is. As I've said in the past, Haskins may be that guy that they turn to and say, you have a bigger upside. I think you can do more for this offense and give this team the best chance to win for the rest of this regular season. We're going to give you a chance to be the long-term starter in Ben's absence to close out the year. So just because Haskins starts the year as the third string quarterback, that doesn't mean he's not going to get a chance to be the long-term starter if Ben goes out for a long period of time, or the rest of the year. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Haskins can do tonight. And I don't think there's much of a chance for Dobbs to hang on. I know Ben really felt comfortable with him last year, as far as like being kind of like his eyes and ears in between plays on the sideline, but I don't think that's enough to keep him around. He's a gifted player, but he's just not. He really hasn't shown a lot as a quarterback up to this point to warrant a spot on the roster. So I think there really isn't a whole lot that he can do to stay on the team. So it's really about what Haskins does tonight. And as far as anybody else, Benny Snell, what does he do tonight? Is there any chance that he can make this team now after missing a great deal of training camp and the preseason with injury? Is there any way he's going to hold on to that job as the backup, which is what he's been the last 2 years, the primary backup at running back? Obviously Harris is number 1. People were really excited about Balaj, and McFarland has come on a little bit after a rookie year where he didn't do anything. He's looked good in small spurts in the preseason. Nothing. He really hasn't done anything. He hasn't had any signature moments yet as far as a running back. So, but I think people are convinced that he's going to make the team. So the question is, are they going to keep 4? And if they keep 4, I guess it would come down to Snell and Samuels. We know about Samuels. We know what he can do. He's a utility running back. He can play tailback. He can play H-back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Whenever they have gone to these specialty like wildcat formations in the past, he's been like the quarterback, quote unquote, And obviously he can play special teams. Whereas Snell can play special teams and everything like that, but he's more of a traditional tailback, running back. So the question is, if they do go to 4 or with 4, who do they keep? And it'll be interesting to see if Snell has any chance of convincing them to keep him with a good performance on Friday against the Panthers. So that's one guy I'm looking at as far as the offense. Another guy, believe it or not, is Matthew Sexton. I know it sounds weird, but I'm pretty sure he's going to get a chance to play on offense because, again, I don't expect any of the top receivers to play other than Washington. So that leaves Ray McLeod, Sexton, a couple other guys, obviously, as your receivers on Friday. And even after that, after his early success with a punt return, he had that punt return early on. I didn't really have put much stock in Sexton as far as being able to make this team. But last week he went out and had another great return, another big return against the Lions. And now there seems to be some buzz that he could make this team. And if he makes this team, it would more likely be in favor of McLeod. So, so far the difference between McLeod and Sexton is McLeod can do some things on offense. He's shown some abilities on offense last year and so far this preseason. So is that enough to keep McLeod on the team in favor of Sexton? Or does Sexton have the ability to be a semi-decent receiver, a number 5, number 6 receiver? I guess number 5 receiver would be, right? Yeah. Are they going to keep? I assume they're going to keep 5 receivers because that's what they did last year. So if they keep 5, I guess it's going to come down to McLeod and Sexton, and that's going to be an interesting decision once the final cutdowns are announced, and maybe Sexton has a chance after all to make this roster. I didn't think it was possible, but it looks like the momentum is in his favor. So let's see what people were saying about those topics. And Buck Dancer asks, anyone know a website to watch the game? I know it's going to air on stream on kdk.com, their official website. I don't know if that's going to be outside of Pittsburgh though. Other than that, I'm not sure. So other than that, I haven't seen any comments about those topics. And with that said, since we're about 18 minutes in, I will. Oh, here's one from Buck Dancer. And he says, Benny Snell will have a huge game. Well, that would be impressive because he is playing against, or he supposedly will be playing against the Panthers starters, at least early on. So if he has a big game, then that might be enough to keep him on the roster. And he did show a lot of promise his rookie season and early into last year. I mean, you remember his rookie year, he came on late when Connor was dealing with injuries, and he almost led the team in rushing it. I mean, it wasn't an impressive amount. It was 400 plus yards, but he almost beat out Connor for the team lead in rushing. And last year he had 113 yards in week 1 against the Giants after Connor went out with an ankle injury. And a lot of people, including me, were calling for Snell to be the starter, but Snell was really a non-factor the rest of the way. So, yeah, it'll be a really, really intriguing decision when it comes to the running back position, because I think we can all agree that, at least most of us can agree, that the top 3 slots are already wrapped up with Snell and Balaj and McFarland. The question is, do they keep 4? And if they do keep 4, will it be Snell or will it be Samuels or will it be somebody we aren't even thinking of? So, and Creeks is just the opposite. And cut Snell, period. Well, there you go. Isn't it funny how quickly things change? 2 years ago, everybody was so excited about Benny Snell coming out of Kentucky. You looked at his production with the Wildcats, and people were pretty darn optimistic about him being about Benny Snell football and his ability to run downhill and his infectious smile and personality. And unfortunately for him, we haven't seen much of any of that stuff because of injuries and lack of opportunity. And now here we are 2 years in, and people were calling for him to get cut. Same with Samuels. Back in 2018, people were excited about his versatility and what he could bring to the offense and the team as a whole. And it didn't take long for him to have major critics. But I think the common denominator here is that these guys are all mid-round picks. Snell was a 4th-round pick. Samuels was a 5th-round pick. So, you look at them on paper coming out of college, and you're thinking, why did these guys last this long? Why didn't they get drafted higher? And then they show you within a year or two why. And you have to basically resign yourself to the fact that most mid-round picks and lower are going to be average players at best. Doesn't mean they can't make an NFL roster, though, because, usually your backups are about average. So they're probably going to keep one of those guys. The question is who. And at the 21:50 mark, I will take this time to take a break. But if you're watching me on YouTube and Facebook, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be right back. And if you're listening on an audio platform, I please ask you to download part 2 of this episode of Steelers Friday Night Six-Pack. And welcome back, Steeler fans. Welcome back to part 2 of this episode of Steelers Friday Night Six-Pack. If you're watching me live, you know it's not Friday night, at least not in Pittsburgh. It's Friday afternoon, and we're still a few hours away from the Steelers and Panthers preseason finale in Carolina at 7:30. And the reason why I'm on now is because I can't do a show during the game, so we have to turn the six-pack into a happy hour, kind of. That's why I'm joining you, and I'm glad you're with me, and hopefully you're enjoying the show. Let's piggyback on what we talked about in the first half, and that's some battles, some performances to keep an eye on, some individual players. And Andrew Wilbar says the Steelers need to cut Benny, no room. Brad Jewett says Benny's going to go 150 and 2 touchdowns. And I don't know if he's going to get the opportunity to rush for 150 yards, but if he has that kind of pace, that might bode well for him. Brad Jewett says of Benny Snell, who's a very, very popular figure to talk about, both in a positive and negative sense. And he says, I'm with you, Cree, meaning Creex. No shot of Snell making the 53 unless he does what I mentioned right there with you, man. I don't know. I guess it all depends. A lot of these players, all they need is one champion in the coach's room to keep them on the roster. We saw that with Invincible, right? They all wanted to cut Vince Papale, but of course it was an important champion. That was the head coach, and that's how he got to stay on the team. But you don't know how some of these guys feel about Snell or Samuels. Danny Smith might love Samuels for what he does for special teams, and that might be enough to keep him on the roster. Maybe it's Samuel's previous relationship with Matt Canada in college. Canada spent a lot of years with a lot of different teams in college as their coordinator and position coach and everything, head coach for Maryland. So that might be enough to keep Samuels on the team. It's just you just never know. All right. All right, my next topic. Well, it's really not a topic necessarily. It's just I just want to continue to talk about some players who I'm looking forward to watching on Friday. And another one I'm kind of intrigued about. I didn't think I would be, but until Tomlin mentioned him in his press conference, and that's Trey Norwood, the 7th round pick out of Oklahoma, the what he called the Swiss Army knife when he announced the draft pick way back in, I guess, April. Evidently, he's gonna get a chance to play some in the nickel, and as you might know, the Steelers aren't settled at that position quite yet. The conventional wisdom is that Cameron Sutton will be the slot corner when they go to sub packages, and somebody like James Pierre will play on the outside when they play, I guess, base defense, which they don't do a whole heck of a lot these days. And Sutton will be the outside corner, but I don't know. If you read Jeffrey Benedict's piece the other day, there really isn't a solid Mike Hilton. I mean, there's a solid Mike Hilton replacement on the roster, but it really isn't somebody at that level, which I guess is reasonable when you think about how good Mike Hilton really is as a slot corner, an overall player. Antoine Brooks was favored to make the team early in training camp and through the preseason, but he was waived the other day with an injury. And as far as I know, he still hasn't been re-signed. Nobody's claimed him. So if he is not on the roster, then maybe the duties will go to Arthur Millette, the veteran from the Jets. Or maybe it's just going to be Sutton, and James Pierre will go to the outside when Sutton moves inside. That's been talked about all off season. A lot of people are high on Pierre. Jeffrey called him a solid replacement, a solid option. I should say, for like a Steven Nelson, but maybe that's all you can get right now is a solid option to replace a guy like Nelson on the outside. Because Nelson, say what you want about him, he was pretty darn good cornerback when he was here for those 2 years. So that's maybe something they have to do. I know a lot of people are still calling for them to go out and make a trade for like a Stephon Gilmore or wait for somebody to get cut, a la Joe Hayden a few years ago, and pick that player up. But you just don't know what they're thinking about these guys. And James Pierre is one such player that you just don't know how they feel about him. If they're as high on him as a lot of the fans are, then maybe they're confident that he could do the job and continue to get better at that position. And, maybe it's going to have to be baptism by fire for him this year as an outside corner whenever Sutton moves inside. Maybe that's the plan. And it's just going to have to be that way. Like I was saying months ago, if you're going to cut a player like Steven Nelson, for as productive as he was, for as good as he was, and again, I know a lot of people kind of poo-pooed the corner he was after he got cut, but I think that was more based on emotion because of some of the things he said on the way out the door, because they couldn't come to an agreement on salary, on a contract renegotiation. But the fact of the matter is, if they want a corner that could be really, really good, that they were going to pay $8-9 million in 2021, that was Steven Nelson. Once they decided to move on from him, I didn't see them going out and finding his equal or somebody even better than him as a replacement to somebody that you would have to pay as much or more. It just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't add up that they would go out and they would go that route. So once they decided to move on from Nelson, to me, that tells me that was a vote of confidence for Sutton, for Pierre, for those kind of players on this team, that they were going to get a shot and they were going to do the job. Remember way back when, 2009, Brian McFadden left as a free agent after the 2008 season, after that second Super Bowl, and the plan was to go with Willie Gay as the number 2 corner. It didn't quite work out, admittedly, and McFadden was actually back here in 2010, but that was the plan. That was they knew that they couldn't afford McFadden. They had Ike Taylor on the other side. They had Troy as far as defensive backs. So, he wasn't a corner, but they had a lot of money tied up in their secondary with Troy and their defense in general, with Troy and James Harrison, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the plan was to let McFadden walk as a free agent and give Willie Gay the shot as the second corner. It didn't work out, but just because it didn't work out then doesn't mean it can't work out now. And I fully think that's how it's going to go down. It's going to be Sutton and Pierre alternating as the outside corner. Sutton in base, Pierre when they go to, I guess, dime, nickel. And we have to remember there's also talk of players like Joe Schobert playing the nickel or the dime. So, there's all kind of possibilities. There's all kind of ways they can kind of mask this problem when it comes to their sub packages and who plays dime, who plays nickel. And that's the value of having a lot of, first of all, it's the value of having an excellent defense, like an incredibly talented defense, and having this philosophy over the last few years of going out and getting players that can do multiple things. And Trey Norwood, who's a rookie and totally unproven, is one such example of somebody that they identified in college who can play safety, can play in the slot, he can play, I guess, traditional cornerback. Just all kind of different positions. And then when the time is when the time calls for it, those guys will get their opportunity and they have to make the most of it. So Trey Norwood's another one I'm looking forward to watching tonight. Of course, I'm looking forward to watching Jameer Jones and Quincy Roche, because I assume they're going to get they're going to be the starters on the outside linebacker, because obviously TJ Watt's not playing. And there's no reason to play Alex Highsmith at this point. I think he's proven himself. He's a stud. He's going to be a damn good player. I don't know what kind of stats he's going to have in the second year, but he's going to be a productive player. He's going to be a problem. It's going to be a pick your poison kind of thing with this defense as far as who you double team. So it's going to be Roche and Jones starting. And I don't think Melvin Ingram's going to play either. Why play him? He's a veteran. He's been around. You know what he can do. He was brought in to be the primary backup. So there's really no reason to throw him out there and risk injury when you brought him in here to be a guy who comes in and spells other players when they're tired or when they're hurt. He fills in for them. So there's no reason to risk him tonight in a totally meaningless game when you already know he's going to make the team. So it's going to be between Roche and Jones, probably, as far as who's the fourth linebacker. And if they don't go beyond 4, it's going to be an interesting decision come cutdown day. Jones has had a fantastic camp and preseason, but if you listen to Jeffrey Benedict's first show from the cutting room floor a couple weeks ago, he talked about how somebody like Tuzar Skipper, he always looked great when he played against the 3s and the 4s, but when he played against people who were considered 1s and 2s, he disappeared. So is that the case with a player like Jones or even a Roche? Do they simply produce when they're playing against people who are at their level or lower, or can they rise up and do something against people that are perceived to be higher pedigree than them? So that's going to be an interesting battle, something I'm looking forward to. And of course, the punting situation. Is there any chance at all that Jordan Berry makes this team, that he survives another cut? It's highly unlikely, and it seems doubtful that it would be swayed by one bad game from Harvin or one excellent game from Berry, because I think we all know Berry knows he can have great games as a punter. He's shown that in the past. As people have pointed out with him, though, when he's called upon to give them a good punt, he comes up short. So that's the problem. Isn't Jordan Berry overall being a good punter. It's just when they need him the most, he seems to come up small. So, but stranger things have happened. So I'm going to be looking forward to watching those two punt tonight. And there's one more battle, or one more guy I'm going to talk about, and I talk about him every week. And I think there's a possibility that he could win the starting left tackle job, and that's Dan Moore, the rookie 4th-round pick from Texas A&M. If you watched Tomlin's presser, he really wouldn't commit to anybody on the line. But I think you can assume that Dawson's going to be the left guard, that Trey Turner is going to be the right tackle. Zach Banner might be a total unknown as far as his readiness at right tackle. So there's a possibility that Moore might have a chance to grab one of the, like even that job too, because he's not playing right tackle as the preseason has progressed. He's not just a left tackle anymore, which is what he played all throughout college. He's been playing at right tackle in an attempt to become their top swing tackle. But maybe it's because they're priming him to be either the starting left tackle or the starting right tackle, because again, Tomlin wouldn't commit to anybody as far as who had a job sewn up on the line. And I think he was mainly talking about or refusing to talk about the tackle positions. So I have a $5 super chat that I missed. I gotta find that and put it up here. And I thank you for the $5. I gotta find out who donated. Bear with me. Yeah, I'll just pull it up this way. It's from Dave Shipley. And he says, isn't Marsh, meaning Cassius Marsh, their 4th, and they only keep 5? I mean, you would think that Marsh would be the number 4, but I mean, no offense to him, but what has he really done in the NFL? He's just been a veteran journeyman backup, essentially. He really hasn't done a whole heck of a lot. So even if you're right and they keep 5, it doesn't mean that Marsh is going to make the team. You know, if they keep 4, he's definitely in trouble. But there it is. I'll highlight it for you. There's Dave's generous $5 super chats. Thank you, Dave. But if they decide to keep 5, it doesn't mean Marsh is going to be safe either. If they really like Jones and Roche enough, then they might say bye-bye to Marsh, because they have their veteran backup in Ingram, a guy who could play on either side. So that's your safety net. That's your security blanket in case Highsmith or Watt can't go for a week or several weeks. Knock on wood. So I'm not really. I know he could play special teams and everything, meaning Marsh, but I'm not really that impressed by him. If you have a couple young guys that you're really excited about, meaning Roche and Jones, I mean, I think why not go with them? I mean, you can always find another Cassius Marsh if you really need that guy. I mean, those guys are out there we saw it the last couple of years with Jaron Elliott. He's Cassius Marsh. I mean, that's that kind of player. Anthony Chickalo, somebody who, essentially he's a roster clogger. He can't really do anything special. He's just a professional who maybe knows the defense, but he's really not a playmaker. And here's Steeler Kev. Welcome to the show, Steeler Kev. And they say Joe Haig, best run blocker in preseason per Pro Football Focus. That's interesting, because I know he struggled. He struggled with in pass protection a little bit, but I think he's going to make the team. But I don't see him being a starter. I mean, he's somebody who keeps himself valuable because he can play both tackle and guard. So I can see him. I definitely expect him to make the team. But as far as him starting, I think, why not go with a Dan Moore? If you think he is capable of doing it. I realize, coaches are kind of hesitant to go with rookies, especially Tomlin. I mean, he's not really one to throw the rookies in there unless he absolutely has to. But I think sometimes you just have to take a chance. Like I talked about with James Pierre, he's essentially a rookie. Sometimes you just have to take a chance and trust in your ability to evaluate talent and coach them up and develop them. And, again, you can always, if you have to, and say Banner's not ready, and maybe your Shooks just isn't getting it done, and Moore struggles once you put him in as a starter, you can always go to a player like Haig, who started, dozens of games in the league. What you pretty much have in him. So you can always, like a Wisniewski or somebody like that, like you had, you were supposed to have last year anyway, before he missed pretty much the entire year with injury. He just retired, by the way. So good luck to him with his life's work. But, you always, as long as you have Haig on the roster, you can always go to him if you had to. That's what those kind of guys are for, kind of like with Ingram. As long as you have him around, you feel a lot better. Here's one from Portna Quimba, and he says Joe Haig is most likely to never be mentioned on Behind the Steel Curtain again, according to Portna Quimba. That's Portna Quimba. That's a strong negative for Joe Haig. So there you go. Dante Harris says, I think Mike Tomlin might surprise us and start more. I think so too. If you want to go by things like by Pro Football Focus, I'm not sure if it went through the Lions game, but there was a point in the preseason where he had, so many dropbacks, pass protection plays where he didn't give up a sack or maybe even a pressure. To me, that tells me something, and I was intrigued by that guy right from the very beginning. Again, I don't know anything about technique. I can't look at a lineman and say, "Oh, look at that technique." Although it is easy to spot when they get beat. But when I saw the advanced stats right after he was drafted, in last year, 327 dropbacks, and he only allowed 2 sacks in the SEC. To me, that told me something. So I immediately put up put that in my little back pocket and wanted to see how he played in the preseason, and so far so good. Here's Dave Shipley again. So another $5. Thank you. So everybody out of the area knows NFL Game Pass live streams or the rerun is on at 11:30 on NFL Network. What's up, Tony? Well, thank you, Dave. Maybe you weren't the one who did I get people mixed up? Were you not the one who sent who just gave me a super chat? That'd be embarrassing. But either way, thanks for the information, Dave, and thank you for the $5. That is true. NFL Game Pass does have that capacity. I don't, as a Pittsburgher, I've never have to worry about things like that. But yeah, it live streams it, and the rerun is on at 11:30. So thank you for that info. Oh, it was Dave. Well, thank you, Dave. Thank you for providing the $5, donating that, and providing the info. That was very nice of you. Evan Gulls says, I know it's off topic. Not necessarily. Nothing's off topic here because we're all talking about young players. Speaking of tight end, I'm excited for Pat Freiermuth. Yeah, I'm excited about him too. I think everybody is. The guy looks legit. I mean, he's only played in one game, but he looks like he can be a real weapon in the passing game. Now, people are talking about his blocking. His blocking's only been okay. I mean, he's never had the reputation of being a great blocker. I think people just assume that because he's an inline tight end, not like a big receiver like a lot of these tight ends are. But he's not really been that great as a blocker, but the guy's a weapon in the passing game, and especially in the red zone. So he had a great week last week playing with Ben Roethlisberger, the 2 red zone touchdowns. He displayed great athleticism, great body control. It was a sight to see. So yeah, I'm excited about him too. Although I'm not ready to totally give up on Eric Ebron. I mean, I realize where, like Jerry Seinfeld said one time, society's turned into like everything's either sucks or it's great. It's great or it sucks. There's no in between. So you see a player like Ebron, he doesn't have a great reputation as a blocker. He certainly doesn't have a great reputation as his reputation for dropping passes is definitely justified. So people are, wanting to trade him. I saw some discussion the other day on Twitter, trade him for a 7th round pick and get rid of him. And like, come on, the guy's still a good tight end, actually a very good tight end. Is he a great blocker? No, but if you looked at the preseason, if you're going by PFF, Dave Schofield posted something, I think it was today, about his blocking. He's better than Freiermuth. So, take that for what it's worth. But he's a really good weapon in the passing game. So I don't know why people just want to get rid of him. Okay, you like the rookie better. I get it. Everybody's excited about the rookie, but this isn't an either or situation when it comes to the tight ends. You're going to be using a lot of 2 tight end sets in Matt Canada's offense. So why would you want to get rid of a really good tight end just because you like the rookie and you don't like the veteran that much because he drops passes and he laughs and he's not always the most pleasant on social media. At least he wasn't in the past when he was complaining about the NFL with all the postponements last year, which kind of makes me laugh because that's all the fans did last year was complain about the cancellations, the postponements. But anyway, that's it's just a rant that I didn't think I was going to go on. But why would you want to have both of those guys on the team? Chances are Ebron's not going to be here after this year anyway. This is last year here. He signed a 2-year deal. You want him on there. Ben seems to like throwing him the ball. He's a matchup problem. Yeah, he drops passes, but he also catches it quite a few too. So I think they would be a better team if they had both of those guys on the roster and not just one. And then you're going with Zach Gentry as your number 2. I don't think you'd want that. That would not bode well for this offense. And Evan Gull says, no, I don't think we should cut Ebron necessarily. He does make some good blocks here and there. I mean, he's a good all-around player. He's not a great player, but nobody ever said he was. He's a good tight end. And sometimes good players have flaws, and his is unfortunately for him dropping passes every now and then. But I don't think it's enough to. I don't think it's enough to cut him, which is what a lot of people are saying. Not really cut him, but trade him. Which why would you want to like? What good would a 7th round pick do? If you want to get rid of Eric Ebron, I don't know. Port Naquimba asks if a team traded a quarterback, if a team suffered a quarterback injury and we were offered a 2022 third round pick for either Mason or Haskins, which one would you trade? Well, I would probably trade Rudolph because I think Haskins has a higher upside. I wouldn't want to, and he's a restricted free agent next year, so he's going to be here again next year. So I didn't know that actually until recently. So they're both pretty, they're Haskins, or I'm sorry, Rudolph is the only one under contract. So if they can get a third round pick for him, that'd be great. But I wouldn't actively shop either one of those guys. I'd keep them all on the roster because I think you have to. If Rudolph's ceiling is as a backup, then he wouldn't be a bad backup to have next year, provided Ben's gone and you have to go with a younger quarterback like a rookie, or if you decide to go with Haskins, at least you have Rudolph, who's been in the system for a few years and knows the deal. Steeler Kev donates $5. Thank you for that. And they say Canada's offense needs 2 tight ends. Exactly. That's one of the things. That's one of the reasons why Freiermuth was brought in, because they wanted to utilize 2 tight ends. It wasn't to replace Ebron and have 1 tight end in there. They're going to be using 2 tight ends in a lot of packages. And on that note, 50 minutes in, I'm going to call it a day. And I thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the questions and the super chats. It was fantastic. It was a good show. Next time I talk to you, to be on the Hangover with Brian and Shannon White. But in the meantime, you're going to get one last Steeler preseason game in. Sorry, somebody was swearing at somebody else in traffic, so I was distracted. Anyway, hope you didn't hear that on there on the through my microphone. Probably not. But anyway, enjoy tonight's game. Hopefully, there aren't any major injuries. Hopefully, one or a few of these young guys can really make a name for themselves. And there's a lot of guys that are getting ready to play tonight that this might be the last time they ever play football. So, wish them luck. And until I talk to you again, have a great weekend and go Steelers.